So here's a hydra shown under a microscope. What do you notice about it?
Green.
Okay, it's green. That's just because of the lighting. They're not really green. What else? Not legs, but your
Heads.
no.
Radial symmetry.
There?
I was gonna say it looks like tentacles.
Yeah, has tentacles. What kind of symmetry would you say?
Radial.
Radial symmetry. So where would we place this? If it has radial symmetry and tentacles, which phylum would it belong in? Campbell?
Would it be crustaceans?
No. They have bilateral symmetry. Joe?
Arthropods?
Nope.
Oh.
They have bilateral symmetry. Foam? No. Tentacles.
Cindergard.
Griffin? Bella? Cnidarian. Hydra is a cnidarian. Cnidarians include things like jellyfish, sea anemones, things with tentacles, stinging cells, and radial symmetry. Okay? That's what a hydra is. Hydra obtain food by basically using these stinging cells to kill their prey or immobilize their prey. Then they put it into their sort of long, thin bodies, which can expand. They put the food into their body and release digestive enzymes to break it down, and that's how they get food.
Can they kill us?
No. I mean, some, not Hydra. Hydra can't have any effect on you, but some cnidarians can.
Where are they found?
Like those box jellyfish we saw the other day, they could be deadly to humans. This is a tiny little, this is a very, very small cnidarian. It eats very small prey. Okay. And they put food in, their body opening is in the center of all the tentacles. They put food in there, digest it, any waste comes out of that same opening. Camel?
So the box jellyfish, so they don't like eat us.
No, they could, their sting, the poison they inject is so strong it could kill you, but they don't, no. Joe? What?
Is there a big enough jellyfish that can eat you?
I mean, there are jellyfish bigger than people, but I don't think it would ever eat you. All right, so Hydra can reproduce in two ways, both sexually and asexually. Their means of asexual reproduction is something called budding. And in budding, basically, you have a new hydra just starts to grow out of the side of the adult hydra. And eventually it grows big enough, it breaks off and goes and becomes its own organism. Here's an example. This is under the microscope again. You see this hydra is in the process of budding. Growing out of the side of this adult hydra is just another hydra. It'll eventually get probably close, a little bit bigger than this, and it'll break off, float away, and it becomes its own hydra. But it's a form of asexual reproduction. It's just a copy of the original. Derek?
Isn't like a hydra like a Greek?
Yeah, Greek mythology, the hydra had like many heads, right? Yeah.
Oh, and how it goes back.
Hydra also can reproduce sexually, so they produce sperm and egg cells to fertilize and have sexual reproduction, introducing variation. And an interesting thing about Hydra is they are hermaphroditic, meaning one individual has both male and female reproductive parts. Each individual Hydra can produce both sperm and eggs in one individual. However, like plants, they generally will avoid self-fertilization because it doesn't add variation to species. So usually two Hydra will exchange sperm and eggs with each other, and then you do have the addition of variation. The other invertebrate we're going to look at today is this creature. Okay, it's pretty small, has this shell around the outside, has antenna. First, what phylum would you say it belongs in? Danielle? Yeah, arthropods, you're correct. It's actually a tiny, tiny little, one of the smallest crustaceans. They're kind of neat because their exoskeleton is transparent. You can see through them. You can actually see their organs inside of them. You can see their heart beating. So it's kind of neat. This is the beginning of the digestive system. This is the esophagus. These are antennae. This is the eye. Their heart's in there. Sometimes you could see eggs inside of them. And it swims around through the water, swims pretty quick. And they live in fresh water. They would live in ponds around here and stuff like that. And so like arthropods, they have bilateral symmetry. They have jointed appendages. They have an exoskeleton. Just play this video. You can see them moving around. This is what you're going to see in a couple minutes. This was under the compound microscope. We're going to be looking at them under the dissecting microscope. They are not microscopic. I mean, you could see them in here swimming around. So they're not that small, but you can't really see much of the detail without a microscope. And they swim around.
Are we going to see these?
Yeah.
Or are they live?
Yeah. All right. Now, we are going to look at the Hydra and the Daphnia in one petri dish. And every once in a while, we haven't seen it today. The Hydra that we got are pretty small. If you have a larger Hydra, you'll sometimes see this, but I don't believe our Hydra are large enough to do this. But sometimes you can see a Hydra sting and start to consume its prey. So in this case, the Daphnia just happened to run into the tentacles of the Hydra, and it's basically getting stung by it. Now this Hydra, the sting is not enough to actually kill this Daphnia. It starts to kind of become paralyzed, but you'll see it starts to swim again, and this Hydra's like struggling to try to get it and put it inside of its body, which would be right here. Maybe you'll see it. I haven't seen it today, and I doubt you will, but every once in a while you could see it. What I've been seeing today is our Hydra are pretty small. When they're disturbed, they tend to like curl up a little bit, and they may look like they're dead and not moving. And what I've seen today is lots of times the Daphnia is running into the Hydra, and they kind of curl up, and they're not really doing much. But we'll see. Maybe yours will be different today. And this one, this Daphnia eventually swims away and doesn't get eaten. So. All right. Now the last thing to talk about today before we get to the lab. Many invertebrates have the ability to regenerate lost body parts, regrow parts if they're cut off or damaged in some way. 3 types of invertebrates that can do this are the Planaria, the Hydra, and the starfish. So that Planaria is the one we're going to look at tomorrow. We won't have time to do it today. But the Planaria is neat. It's a flatworm related to tapeworms, but it's not parasitic. It's a free-living tapeworm, or free-living flatworm. Lives in fresh water and ponds and things. They're kind of neat looking because they have these 2 eyes. They have a feeding tube here, sort of in the middle. They kind of swim around. And the interesting thing is that if you cut a Planaria in half like this, the head end will grow a new tail, and the tail end will grow a new head. And after a week or so, you'll have 2 Planaria. Okay. If you cut it horizontally between the eyes, each half will grow back the other half, and you'll have 2 Planaria. I've even seen if you cut it halfway, each half of the head that you cut will grow a new head, and you could end up with a 2-headed Planaria.
You have a 4-headed Planaria?
No, I guess if you did that again, possibly. The key is you got to cut it in fairly big. You can't like just cut off a little piece of the tail. It'll just die, and this one will grow that tail back. To grow 2 whole Planarias, they have to be cut relatively evenly. Hydra will do the same, and the starfish also will do the same, and other invertebrates as well. Here's a lobster. You can see its claw was cut off, but it's starting to grow back another claw. Here's a starfish. 2 of its arms were cut off, but you could see the beginning of the growth of the other 2 arms. The starfish, any part of the starfish that has a section of this central disc can actually grow into a whole new starfish. So they have this ability to regenerate as well. All right, so let's get going here on observing a couple of these things.